And in these broadcasts, we take a look at the hit television series The Chosen, which is a show about Jesus and his disciples, and it's just really a great opportunity to do a little bit more thinking about what it must have been like to be an early follower of Christ, and obviously that there's just a lot of backstory that the Bible doesn't fill in. So they take artistic license and kind of sketch that out for us. And I think that a lot of it is just plausible. It doesn't mean that it really did happen that way, but it is plausible. And so that's what we do every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. here. My wife's with me tonight. You were with us last week on the broadcast, but you were up at your mom's.
Right.
So how's your mom doing?
She's doing better.
Good. So how about you? How are you doing?
Fine. Yeah. Good.
What did you think of the episode?
I liked it.
Yeah. We're going to be talking more about that and the details of it in just a minute. But in the meantime, I'm just going to go ahead and play our introductory logo and then bring in our guests. So we'll be right back. Nikki and Val are with us tonight. That Lorene isn't feeling well, and some of our other folks aren't able to make it. So I'm glad that you guys are here tonight. Nikki, you said you were having some problems with your mascara. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, first of all, it was a really long episode, so a lot happened in it. But boy, some of those scenes were gut-wrenching.
Yeah. So, yeah, they were. So, that and it's just kind of the way that the whole show goes is that those that they certainly do touch on a lot of emotional topics. So that anything in particular resonated with you or that you found challenging?
I think when he... Go ahead, honey.
Yeah, probably a lot of the questions. I had to have Nikki help me with a lot of those, and we've discussed a lot of them. But the show is really good. It's towards the end. There's levels of up and downs, and boy, it was really good. Really good show.
Yeah. So let's just go ahead and jump into some of the questions here. And, obviously we're not looking for right answers. We're just looking for your perspective. And how I prepare for this is that I watch the episode and I have my computer open and my keyboard is running, and that whenever there's something that catches my attention, then I try to craft it into a question. And so sometimes I'm probably a little bit more effective at that than others, but hopefully that at least prompts some thinking along the way. So this episode opens with Pontius Pilate's wife having a troubling dream about Jesus. Now, by the way, that we know that Pontius Pilate's wife had a troubling dream about Jesus before his crucifixion, but that doesn't mean that was the only dream she ever had about Jesus. And so certainly it's within reason that on other occasions she had dreams about Jesus. And so and I'm not saying that this is an absolute fact, but I'm just saying that I think that we kind of paint ourselves into a corner when we think that things had to have happened in the New Testament just the way that we think that they have happened. Now, obviously, the basis for our faith and doctrine is derived from the New Testament and not the Chosen. But I like that the Chosen is provocative and gets you thinking about some of these issues. But in her conversation with Pilate, whom, by the way, he was just really a drip. and, I'm being as polite as possible. But she says, you don't have friends, you have valuable contacts, people whom you find useful, strategic acquaintances. What's the difference between a friend and a strategic acquaintance? What do you think?
I think a friend is somebody you want to help and that you love, and a strategic acquaintance is somebody that you're looking to help you,
Yeah.
not necessarily somebody you care about.
Yeah, exactly. And as you climb up the food chain in politics, and that's of course where Pilate was. At least, he was a big fish in a small pond. I mean, Judea was not a prime assignment, but he was nevertheless the governor of Judea, and he had to make a good showing. And in order to make a good showing, he had to have strategic acquaintances, and that's kind of what happens. And I think that too often, the church kind of models its patterns after the world rather than, truly speaking the truth in love to all of the people that we meet, regardless of what they can do for a congregation or whatever. How about you, Janice? You value friendships?
I do. I was just looking at that. I'm like, your question, your friends are valuable. Your friends are useful. They're not acquaintances. And they're not strategic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Friends are people that you can share your heart with and that you could be real with. You're not trying to
Yeah. Impress.
play a game with them.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, and that's one of the dangers of church life, is that we need to be in relationship in a way that that we can really truly build true friendships, and we don't have to always feel guarded around the people that we're with. Let's move on to the next question. The disciples begin sharpening weapons in response to the volatility of their current situation. How tempting is it to revert to old ways of thinking and behaving when facing uncertainty and stress? What do you think?
Well, I guess a lot of times we think of the old ways and the way they worked for us before, and we don't stop and think, and we just go with what we know and think we know. And,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
so we don't think things through, and that's where we should.
Go ahead, Janice.
I think for me that when it comes to a stressful situation or whatever, that it's harder to wait on God's answer. And so then I get really tempted to just figure out what I would do instead. Okay, I'm like the mom, like I like to take care of everybody and all their situations and stuff, so it would be easy for me sometimes to not look at what God would do or what he'd want me to do, because I just react and I,
Yeah.
kind of take over with my old thinking before I have a chance to let God do it.
Control.
Yeah.
It's hard for all of us to relinquish control, because we have a pretty clear idea of what's best.
We know what we want.
Yeah. And what we want normally is what we think is best.
Right.
And so we try to exert control to make sure that those outcomes are realized. So and that's what I love, that You know, when the disciples started following Jesus, it's not like that they, in all honesty, there was a lot that was still unfolding for them because they had a particular template for thinking about what the Messiah was really going to be like. And Jesus wasn't really kind of fitting into that mold, but he was undoubtedly, he possessed all of the authority that the Messiah would have and the power. And so they're trying to put these two things together that, hey, he's not, you know, and I know that there's one line in one of the earlier episodes where Jesus says, get used to different, you know, and that's one of the things that comes up.
There's a
Hey, you
comment.
locked in my chair here. That's all right. There
Sorry.
you go.
But I did like the way Matthew came into that scene there when they were shopping their clothes.
That was pretty funny.
That was really good.
Yeah.
Lorene has a comment.
Do I need a knife?
Yeah.
Right. Just poke him in the eye with your pen.
Let me get my comment window. I'm sorry, I haven't had my comment window going. Sorry. So, Lorene, where is she? Which comment is that?
For so long the Jews.
All right, this one here? All right. So, Lorene is not able to be with us tonight, but she is watching. And it says, for so long, the Jews thought the Messiah would come as a warrior. I don't think that they could think of it any other way. Yeah, you know. And so it's certainly a natural reaction or a natural temptation for us to fall into our old ways of relating. So, hey, I'm sorry I didn't have my comment window up earlier, and I see that there's a lot of comments here, so we'll just try to make sure that we pick up on those as we go along here in our broadcast. So, a lot of buttons to push, right, Val?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
We'll have more Sunday.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I just can't leave it alone. I'm always fiddling with something. You know. But on our broadcast on Sunday, some people said that there was audio issues, so I went ahead and bought some additional equipment that will help us to hopefully resolve all of that. So. Leander comes and reports, this is question 3, comes and reports to some of the apostles about the effect that their preaching had on the people living in the Decapolis. Now, the Decapolis is 10 ancient Greek cities formed in Palestine after the Roman conquest in 63 BC. And they were really a mix. And, you know, there was a lot of Gentiles and then also Hellenistic Jews. Hellenistic Jews were Jews that accommodated to the Roman values and interests, which really, the reason why they're called Hellenistic Jews is because Greek culture was really at the heart of a lot of Roman culture. So, so there were Gentiles, non-Jewish people, and Hellenistic Jews. It says all people have a particular way of looking at life in the world. How disruptive are the teachings of Jesus to the beliefs that we hold? What do you think? How disruptive are the teachings of Jesus to the beliefs that we hold? Anybody?
This is what I put.
Oh yeah, I see your answer there.
Yeah.
Nothing. You know, and so, yeah, and so Jesus's way is counterintuitive. That's why we need God to remake our thinking, and there are plenty of instructions to show us how. So that certainly is true. That was really, you know, I mean, you stop and think about it. These guys are in the transition. They were in the transition from the Jewish paradigm to this coming Christian paradigm, and a different understanding of the Messiah, you know, and really different values when he's talking, you know, in the Sermon on the Mount and all about the values of the kingdom. And so there's just a whole lot, he's stirring the pot. And that, and it's a challenge for people. And it was very controversial throughout the land, wherever Jesus had some impact, that people, they would get engaged, and they took their beliefs very seriously, So, and that's even true today. Jesus, essentially, when he confronts us in our world today, we have a decision to make. Are we going to live life on our terms, or are we going to follow the teachings of Jesus, and as best as we can properly understand them? Because sometimes I think that the people's understandings of the teachings of Jesus are confused, and so we need to spend some time to make sure that we're understanding his teachings correctly. So, but okay, any other additional comments you guys would like to make on that? That's all right. No? Okay. I had to laugh at that Leander character as he's coming through,
Breaking into their house.
Yeah, especially since all these guys are on edge.
And they have knives
Yeah.
that are sharp.
Yeah. So, but
came in real quietly.
Yeah. So, in her conversation with Tamar, I really loved this exchange between these two women. I thought it was very, that's what I like about this this series, is that there's a lot of insightful stuff that's going on, But in her conversation with Tamar, Mary Magdalene says, "I'm doing everything I can day after day, and I'm afraid I'm still broken. I worry I will never be enough." Tamar responds by saying, "I'm truly sorry for the shame and regret that you feel. Truly, it must be very painful, but Jesus forgave you, and you choose to hold on to it." Why do you think that we often choose actually that should be T-O, to live in shame and regret rather than in God's grace and acceptance of us? Why do you think that's the case?
I agree with Lorene. She just...
All right, what'd she say?
Forgiving ourselves is sometimes harder than forgiving others or even God. Hard to believe that God truly loves us as we are. We have that tendency to try to do it ourselves.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, that's for sure. So, and that...
And I think, too, if you're brought up with a lot of condemnation and everything, it's really hard to believe that Jesus forgave you.
Yeah.
You haven't, you feel like you need to do something to make it right, and then finally someday it hits you upside the head. Oh, he did it to make it right.
Yeah. We've been having that conversation here lately. That I've been preaching a series on Sunday mornings about the names of God, and in last week I talked about Yahweh Sidkenu, which means the Lord is the one who justifies. And it's hard for us to kind of like just accept that grace. How about for you guys in your life? How difficult has it been for you in your personal journey, if you don't mind sharing, for you to just accept God's grace?
It's been hard, I think. It's been kind of like Mary. I give it to him and then I take it back, and then I give it to him and then I take it back. And I go back and forth because I know the thoughts I have, and I know that, he knows every single thing, not just, everything. And so I think, how could he forgive all of that?
Yeah. Yeah, it's incredible, huh? So, that, Yeah, it's been a big struggle for me in my life. And I'm grateful to God that He's allowed me to live as a Christian now for these many years. Because certainly in my early Christian life, I didn't have a lot of this stuff figured out. And my Christian faith was so much more of a duty and still filled with a sense of condemnation.
Right.
And
Elaine says, it's also unresolved guilt.
mm-hmm, yeah. So.
Or in Jan, you read that one.
Yeah. So many of us were brought up with guilt as a way to keep us in line, and reminded of our shortcomings frequently, and it makes it hard to accept God's forgiveness. And I think that when we've done something also in our lives that we feel is just really egregiously wicked, that and I think that may be two things for me. One is kind of the egregious big sins in my life, but also it's just kind of like the little things you think, I shouldn't be that petty.
Right. But we always feel like we're the worst because we only know what's in our head. So everybody's thinking I'm the worst.
Yeah. So Celebrate Recovery had taught me it helps to resolve, sharing it helps to resolve things. That's Elaine. And Celebrate Recovery is a great ministry. We've been involved in it. Janice and I have been involved in it a lot, our own lives, And so, and I could really see that struggle, with Mary Magdalene. Because, obviously she's a woman who has a pretty, what would I say?
Checkered past.
Yes, there you go. That's the words. A checkered past. That's what I was thinking, is that I've kind of figured it out with us, is that I'm a half-wit and
I'm a whole wit.
Okay. I was just thinking that,
I know.
Yeah, okay. So, well, thank you for filling in. Thank you for filling in where my dim-wit was not operating well. So.
But at least in the show, she had just come back from falling away again. So it she's probably. I mean, like we've all done that. Where you ask God to forgive you, and then you're like, okay, I'm going to rest in His forgiveness, and then you do it again, and again, and again.
Yeah.
You're like, how many times is He going to forgive me?
Yeah, really. So
I like how they showed that scene between the two of them and how they worked it out. They could have gotten up, walked out, handled it so differently, but they listened to each other. I thought that was really good.
Yeah, that kind of brings us to the next question, is that the two women find some connection when Tamar shares the story of her pain. Why do we need to have some relationships in our lives where we can do that, share the story of our pain? What do you think?
That's when we heal.
Why?
Because I think that once you share it with someone and you realize that they're not condemning you, that they're still loving you, that they're not like kicking you out of the house going, I don't want to hear from you ever again, but they're loving you, then you can kind of see that that's how God is with us.
Yeah.
It feels safe. Yeah.
Lifting that weight off you.
Yeah.
And then if you're sharing and you're friends and you're sharing your stuff back and forth with one another, then you realize you're not in it all alone.
Yeah. Lorraine writes, that in my own experience, sharing my pain with others was instrumental to my healing. I could no longer hide my shame and guilt, and I love others so much more when I hear their stories.
Yep.
I become so less judgy when I hear where they came from or come from, and why they do what they do.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think that and maybe Nikki, you can speak a little bit to this. You said you loved how the women resolved it. What particularly struck you about how they worked through that and resolved this kind of like edginess that was existent between them?
Well, it's kind of the unspoken thing where they kind of look at each other and then look down, and they were really, it looked like they were trying to put themselves in the other person's shoes, and instead of just thinking about just themselves and how offended they were by what the other person did.
Yeah.
I think they wanted to work it out.
Yeah.
It just, it was a really good scene. I think it was a good example.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously that Mary Magdalene, it's interesting how that she was carrying a lot of self-judgment and projecting that into her relationships, and that's often what we do with people,
And even the way she was judging Tamar on her attitude and all that, she was being very judgmental, and saying, like, you're so out there, and you say all these things, but you're right, like she's just so totally mad at her.
Yeah.
Women aren't like that, are they?
Not usually.
I'm just checking. I don't know what that world is really like, but.
And I liked how at the end they both shared what they got from the other person. They could be more alike and what they could pick up from the other person. That was good.
Yeah. So Kathleen says that Tamar sharing her story with Mary gave Mary a better understanding of why Tamar was the way she was.
Yeah, because before she had wanted her to sell her necklace to get money, and she says, now you understand, That's why mother's blood on this necklace.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. Number 6. Pilate says to Atticus, I just want peace. How can being a peacekeeper versus being a peacemaker be a problem in life and relationships? Now, we know that Jesus teaches, blessed are the peacemakers, for what they shall be called the children of God. I can't remember what he says about it. So I probably should remember that, huh? I'm looking it up right now. But
seems to me we had a sermon about this.
I know. Go ahead and just throw it in my face. Go ahead. I know.
Well, then you tell us what it means. Nikki.
Yeah.
I wasn't there.
Hold on. I'm looking it up right now. So, for they will be called the children of God. So I was right. So, but so what's the difference between a peacemaker, peacekeeper?
Well, peacekeeper wants to just kind of smooth everything over and not make any waves and not solve the problem. Or a peacemaker wants to get to the heart of it and have healthy relationship. And I was thinking about how when Pontius Pilate was standing in front of the group of people, he was the peacekeeper. He didn't want anybody mad. He wanted to go along with the crowd. And he knew Jesus was innocent. And he was the peacekeeper.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, Yeah, that peacekeepers, you know, they kind of have the Rodney King version of spirituality. Can't we all just get along, you know? And
Excuse me.
I think that almost at every family gathering, oftentimes, you know, that the main kind of pressure is for peacekeeping, you know. But we have a pretty decent relationship amongst our family. Let's just hope it doesn't grow much more. You know? But peacemakers, and I loved what Nikki said, is that they're more concerned about doing what's healthy. And so the goal is, how can we bring health into this relationship, you know? So I've struggled too much in my life with being a peacekeeper.
I like Kathleen's.
All right, so what'd she say here? Being a peacekeeper doesn't necessarily bring peace, but may avoid conflict. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Lorraine had said earlier, something about peacekeeping solves no problems, just pushes stuff under the carpet.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes when you're all together as a family, that's fine.
Yeah.
For the moment.
For the moment. Yeah. So, but yeah, Pilate was all about what was expedient, you know. Yeah, if we have to kill Jesus, we got to kill Jesus. You know, that's later on. But here again, one of the things I love about the show is that we see that the seeds that we sow in our character are harvested in crisis.
Yeah.
And so when Pilate gets to that moment of crisis, he's been practicing peacekeeping so much in his professional life. So yeah. Number 7. When John the Baptist's disciples come to Jesus, they ask, "Are you the one to come, or should we look for someone else?" And we can read about that in Matthew 11 and also Luke 7. Jesus replies somewhat obliquely. Why do you think he wasn't more direct? What do you think?
Well, I didn't know if because of in the show they portrayed who was there, the Pharisees. So I didn't know if that was part of it. He didn't want to come right out, or if I didn't, or if he wanted them to think about it. Like he said, go back and show them, tell them what you saw, and what I said. So I wasn't quite sure what they were trying to convey.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think it's entirely feasible that that there was a mixed crowd there. You know, Pharisees. In this case, Pharisees, zealots, average Jews, Romans, and they're all thinking about the Messiah in a particular way. And Jesus doesn't want to just throw a match on that powder keg, you know. And so I think he has to be a little bit circumspect in how he handles the situation. You know, Jesus he's really a master. You know, when it comes to human relations, is that Jesus is really a master in navigating difficult circumstances. And that doesn't mean that all difficult circumstances work out well, because they didn't always for Jesus, you know. But he really knew how to deal with those things. So, okay, number 8. In the scriptures, Jesus says, "We played the pipe for you, and you did not dance. We sang a dirge, and you did not cry." That's in Luke 7:32. In the show, Jesus says, "It doesn't matter what's put in front of you, you will reject it." Why are some people like that when it comes to receiving the gospel message?
Their hearts are hard, I think.
Yeah. You know.
What I don't understand is if they were told in the scriptures, like everything that was said is happening, why didn't they see it? Like every single thing, even that you'll reject me. Why couldn't they see that? I don't understand that.
Yeah. It's crazy. It really is. Kathleen says that she found it confusing in the episode. Why would John have instructed them to ask if he was really the one? And I think that for a couple of reasons. Well, why do you think? Why do you guys think that John was wondering about this? You know?
I think he wanted it to come out. It appears like he's antsy. He wants everything to get moving. I think he believes he's him, but he doesn't see, he doesn't know what's about to happen.
Yeah. And he's about to lose his head.
He's been sitting around there a little too long.
Yeah. Saying, let's get this show on the road, Jesus, you know. So that and there again, we can't make the assumption that John had a mature understanding of what the Messiah would truly do.
He might have thought, just like the disciples, that they were going to, be a political thing. They were going to take over.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So even John had wrong expectations. You know. And so
and I think that's kind of the question that you just asked is one of the reasons why people, they put off receiving the gospel, and then they're going to hear other things, and that may turn their heart totally against God.
Yeah. That as one Facebook user says, I don't know why some reject the good news. It's still happening today. And yeah, really, that it's just it's you go on Twitter or even Facebook, it doesn't matter where you're at, YouTube, is that there's everybody thinks they're an expert. And so everybody shares their opinions, so okay, sorry. One of the zealots says to Simon the Zealot, I will find my own path. How is this characteristic of so many people when it comes to spirituality? What might be the problem in taking such an approach? What do you think?
I think it's like you said about control. Like when Simon said, go with me, let's follow him, and he didn't want to do that. It's kind of like we've talked about buffet Christian. I want to pick a little of this, I want to pick a little of that, but I want to stay in control. I don't want anybody telling me what.
Yeah. I don't want no broccoli on my plate. None of the broccoli teachings of Jesus. I just want all the desserts, So no kale.
Okay.
By the way, back in the day when you would go to buffets, I haven't gone to a buffet in a long time. Your dad was a big fan of buffets.
Yeah.
Why?
Because everybody could get what they wanted. We're like, isn't that true in any restaurant?
Yeah. Nobody takes you to.
In his defense, I have to say, it probably did mean like a kid could eat only macaroni and cheese and cake.
I know. But it's a standing joke in our family.
Yeah, it is a joke in our family.
But yeah, back in the day, and I haven't been to a buffet, like I said, in a long time, because I'm not a big fan of buffet food, typically.
Me either.
But the kale was used for just as a garnish all around the other food.
I don't even know if it was even around the food at that time. It's just probably lettuce.
No, it was all packed. Everything was packed with kale.
Oh. That's stuff you throw away.
I know. And people would probably think you're some sort of foreigner or something if you start
eating it. What are you, a cow?
I know your dad would have thought that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, so many people have that buffet approach
Yeah.
to spirituality. You know, even today, you know, we tend to kind of tamp down the teachings of Jesus that we find unpalatable.
Yeah.
You know, rather than trying to.
I know. I was even talking to some people. I think that we all get so indoctrinated with that God is love. God loves everyone. You know, and we're not supposed to judge and all these kind of things. And I had to just kind of remind them that we are all going to be judged. It says in the Bible that God is a vengeful God. You know, that He is going to. That we're going to have to give an account of how we've lived our life and everything, you know. So we can't just sit around going, oh, God loves everybody, you know. It's like, it's kind of an urgent thing. Even Jesus was saying you need to tell people how they can be saved, you know, so that they won't be lost. But I don't think we have that urgency anymore, really.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah. It says, leaning on my own understanding leads me on the wrong path. Well, ain't that the
Right.
truth? Yeah. So, but all right. Okay, this is like one of those.
Yeah, this was the tearjerker part.
Woo.
One of those, you know, 3 Kleenex moments.
Yeah.
You know. And Barnaby and Shula had a different relationship with Jesus than just seeking a blessing or a healing, even though they both received a healing. You know, and I love the way that was portrayed.
Yeah.
You know, why is it important to build a relationship with Jesus that transcends just seeking favors from Him?
I think Shula put it really well. Like, you could tell the relationship is the best part of it, and the healing is like the icing on the cake. It's like she was happy
Yeah.
with the relationship part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
You know?
you know. And if you don't have a relationship, you're not going to weather those times when you don't get what you want from God. You know. So, have you ever been in those moments?
Yes. Why do you always look at me?
Because you're so beautiful.
Oh, yeah, right.
Okay. So, but
That's why I don't sit next to Val.
I know. I'm going to go in my own room.
yeah. So so yeah, I love them. You know, I love the interplay of these two guys, these two characters, with each other too.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. They're so cute.
Yeah, they were pals. You know, and I don't know if there was a romantic.
It didn't seem like it, but
Yeah. It doesn't seem like they've just been there for each other.
Yeah.
the lame leading the blind.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
Such a
That's
good
a
scene.
friend.
That's good.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm
Such a
sorry,
good-
Val.
Oh, that's okay. It's just a good scene. That's where I said Nikki had to actually get closer to our big screen TV to watch this. Close. It was really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Even
it's
as
cool.
they walked away and
Yeah.
jumping and cheering and
Yeah, he starts walking, and then he was like, "What?"
Wait a
I'm
minute.
sorry. Pay for it.
That one kind of snuck up on me. Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
I was thinking they portray it really good, how good Jesus feels when he does that, like how happy it makes him to do those things. And it, like that
Yeah.
scripture, how a father loves to give his children good gifts. I
Yeah.
love that part.
Yeah. Sheila asks why, and Lorraine says, why are you afraid to ask for healing? And that's a good question, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what do you think? What do you think? Why are we sometimes afraid for that?
I think sometimes I think that I am not important.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of
Great
like,
answer.
what's his name? Barnaby. You know, like, just take care of her.
Yeah. So
It's really hot in here.
so yeah, we closed the door to block out the other noise in the house, and it just gets a little bit
I'm gonna open
stifling.
the door.
You gonna open the door? Okay. So she'll be back in just a minute. So, but yeah, I think it's important for us to build a relationship with Christ that transcends the favors. that somebody says turn on the air, Kathleen.
It's
Yeah,
on.
It's on.
I turned it down.
You know. But because let's face it, we all are in the position that we don't always get what we want from Jesus. You know, even when it's a sincere and what we think is a prayer that makes sense. You know, even a selfless prayer.
I think, when you read the next question, that kind of shows that,
Mm-hmm. Let's go ahead to that next question. Are you trying to rush me along?
No.
Oh, so,
But I mean,
No,
here they
I
are
know.
asking, why?
Peter finally learns what's troubling Eden. And when he learns about her miscarriage, he starts asking why over and over and over. Why is that the wrong question to occupy our minds when tragedy strikes? What might be a better question to entertain? What do you think? Why is the why question the wrong question?
I think that was a little tough one for me, because the first thing I just want to do is ask why, and then ask why and more whys. But so me and Nikki were talking about this, and she came up with some, like, well, maybe one question would be like, how can we learn from this? And
Yeah.
And why not me? Why not me?
yeah, why
What
not me?
makes me? Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, a couple good observations. Is that, what's my responsibility in this? God has a purpose. I will forgive God for this tragedy and trust Him. When I work with people, and I'm actually working on I use a program that I've used for many, many years to help people through these types of issues. And so now I'm kind of like packaging it and going to be training other people how to do it. And so, but first of all, the why question, I have very rarely seen that question get answered. That, and like what Kathleen says is that all it does is get you frustrated when God, and He can and does heal, but He doesn't, or prevent your loved one from dying or whatever it is.
Or even like when we lost our jobs, we just kept going over and over and over in our conversation, in our mind and everything, like what happened and why did God let this happen and what could we have done differently, and all these kind of things, and after a while you just have to, I think that maybe shock when things happen to you, when really terrible things happen, you're kind of in shock.
Yeah.
And then it's, I think, only natural to ask, like try to figure it out in your head to make it make sense, and it doesn't make any sense,
Yeah.
But then there comes a point where you just have to say, I don't know how come this happened. I don't understand. I don't know what on earth happened, but God will see us through this. That God is in control the whole time. It's in His plan, and He will take care of it. But I have to be honest. In my life, I don't just go straight to.
Yeah. From tragedy to.
I'm not going to say why God has it. No, I say why, and I'm like, sometimes freaking out saying why, because it's scary.
It is, Yeah. Is that Yeah, and I think that it's fair to say why, and we'll talk about that actually in our next broadcast, because this kind of builds for the next, actually, 3 broadcasts or whatever, 2, that this theme continues to build. And so, but I think that a better question is that would be, how can I best respond in this situation? And I do like, one Facebook user wrote here that Peter was judging Jesus. That, Jesus takes care of all these other people, but he doesn't, and so there's this kind of like this expectation that he should have done something for me.
But he didn't take care of everyone.
Yeah.
Because it's little James, right? That's he asked him to take away his, and he said no.
Yeah.
Not now.
That stuff is hard.
It is.
That's the hardest stuff about Christianity. When you really are drawn to God and you wholeheartedly serve the Lord, and life blows up in your face.
If you don't get stuck in the why, then you can learn and grow so much, because then you can start seeing how God is taking care of you in all these little situations. But if you are just stuck on why and blaming and everything, you wouldn't see them.
Yeah. It's very dangerous. I've seen a lot of Christians get neutralized by getting stuck in that bitter place. And normally, it's the things that we want most out of life,
In this scene, I'm not trying to be judgmental, but I just look at them, and if they were truly friends of mine and that was their relationship with one another, I would feel very sad for them that they didn't learn how to communicate their deepest feelings to one another, because like I always say to Carrie when we're watching TV, well, if they just would talk, they would be able to figure this stuff out. And he goes, Janice, then it wouldn't be a movie. But this is, it'd be a short movie. But this one, like they're kind of like betraying the people in the Bible. And it's like, I'm sure they didn't have it all figured out. But if they had just talked to each other a little bit more, they could have avoided a lot of that hurt. Then they could have shared in the why and the crying and the pain and everything, instead of like kind of feeling like they did it both separately.
Yeah. It takes a
I
while.
wanted him to hug her.
Say what?
I wanted him to hug her.
Yeah,
Just sit there, and I thought, why is he just? And then she comes over to hug him, and I'm thinking, whoa.
Yeah. I wanted her to slap him at first. It's like
Janice is not a big fan of Peter in the show.
when everybody came knocking on the door, right when she was ready to tell him, it's like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. So, any observations or comments you guys like to make before we wrap up for this evening?
No, just waiting for the next one. This is really good.
I do like how Gaius is in the background watching everything from a Roman perspective. I like that.
Yeah. So, here's about Johnny Erickson Tata, that she, God sometimes permits what he hates to accomplish what he loves. God was working in Peter. Yeah, I can't wait for season 4 too. Kathleen talks about that.
When's it coming out?
I don't know.
Because we don't have very much more to go.
I know. I mean, we have. Obviously, we could do some live broadcasts on other topics, if we wanted to go down that route. We can talk about that a little bit later on. But
How many seasons are there going to be?
I don't know. I just don't know. You know.
He said once, but I can't remember.
Yeah, well, once I heard talking about 7, but I don't know if that's going to happen. You know, I guess it just depends on how much, if they're able to sustain the momentum for the series or not. But yeah, I mean, I really do, and it's and like I say, I'm highly critical of Christian broadcasting, and so yeah, somebody said they wanted 7, so we'll see what happens with it. So, but yeah, some of the best stuff's yet to come.
Yeah.
Yeah, really. You know. So, well, guys, thank you for joining us tonight, and we just wish Lorene a full and speedy recovery from whatever it is has her down. Janice had her flu shot the other day, and so she's not been feeling 100%.
Yeah, I think it made me feel a little puny. They say it doesn't, but I haven't been feeling that great.
Yeah, yeah. I got my flu shot today, but Janice got the super duper one. I didn't know that there was. Well, I didn't know that that's what she got. Otherwise, I would have followed you and got the super duper one.
It's for old people.
Yeah, the super duper one's for old people.
Oh, joy.
Oh, yeah. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this thing up. Once again, thank you. I appreciate you guys, you know. So, all right. Well, oops. Hey, let me scoot over there just a little bit. There we go. I'll lean over. So, we do appreciate you folks joining us on Wednesday night. That, and I don't know who sent us all the hearts, but I'll take them. And so I appreciate you spending the evening with us. And I just hope that this is a blessing to your life. It has been a blessing to mine, both watching these shows, but also discussing them and kind of exploring these topics a little bit more deeply. And so join us next time around, or you can join us on Sunday. You know, we are we broadcast on the same channels that you're watching this broadcast on tonight. I'm going to be talking about. Let me see if I can get the name right. It's Yahweh Mekadishkim this Sunday. And so you can look that up and find out what it means. I'll tell you later on. So, all right. That's it for now. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.